All right. Well, everyone, holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 17. Again, want to welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 17. We're in verse 11. We spoke last week. We're in the middle of this Ramban, but Nachmanides over here. The Torah says, Ki nefesh abosar b'dami, ani nesativ lachem al-mizbeach, l'chaper nafshoseichem, ki adamu b'nefesh yechaper. So here the Torah says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. Right, we're going to see this theme come up in the next number of verses also. I've given it to you upon the altar, right? The blood goes on the altar, should go on the altar to make a atonement for your souls, for the blood of the life that makes atonement. Right? So we said, Rashi brought down that every creature, not only animals, right, depending on its blood, right, that's why I place it on the altar again as an atonement. So the Ramban, we're in the middle of this Ramban, but the Ramban basically said, he brought down that it's used for atonement. It's going to go on the altar. And he brought down a Rambam. Now the Rambam, very interesting. The Rambam over here says he brings down a more Nevuchim, guide for the perplexed. Now, just as review, the guide for the perplexed, the Rambam wrote as to give reasons or potential reasons for the sake of the mitzvahs. And there are a lot of Jews going astray from secular philosophy, i.e., Socrates, Aristotle, etc. So he wrote this book to answer these philosophers, so to speak. So basically, so I wouldn't say it's in vogue today. I don't think many people learn it. It is, but it's a hard book to go through anyway because he wrote it originally in Arabic, which is translated into Hebrew, which has also been translated into English. But whatever, the language is hard. Wrote in very philosophical language. But in any case, the Rambam says over there in part 3, chapter 46, and he says, what's the reason for blood? Over here, that the Kasdis that lived in Mesopotamia, these people, right, where a lot of the Jews were anyway, in the Fertile Crescent, that area of the world. He said, even though blood to them was disgusting, why did they eat blood? Why did they eat blood themselves? In order to have a connection to demons. Because when you eat blood, you enter some sort of state of impurity and you have more of a connection to demons. Right? And why would you want to have a connection to demons? You want to have a connection to demons, one very simple reason, to know the future. Right? To know the future. So the Torah came along. Now, demons, we spoke about demons before. We spoke about the two goats that were sacrificed, or one was sacrificed on Yom Kippur, one was sent to Azazel, right? Was sent out to the desert and died any number of ways. And the whole thing with, that demons are out there, and it could be the demons killed it, or fell off a cliff, or anyway, we spoke a number of weeks about demons. They have certain character traits in Derech Hashem. The Ramchal says they have certain character traits like humans. They have certain character traits like like animals. They eat and drink and have kids like animals do, right? They also die. And they do other things like angels. They fly around. Do other things like angels. We don't have contact with demons today. The power has been greatly diminished. But the Gemara speaks about how rabbis came in contact sometimes with demons. Demons were very destructive. But again, we pretty much don't have any contact with them. We would even know if we saw one that it was a demon or not. So it really doesn't, it really doesn't affect us, too much. But in any case, they wanted that the Castines, what did they want? They ate blood in order to have contact with demons, in order to know the future. So then the Torah goes totally against that. Right? The Torah says, that, stay away from blood. Right? It says it in a number of places. Don't eat blood, but bad for you. Chapter 20, verse 6. About Molech, about idolatry. Right? Also, they bought blood for the sake of their idols, etc. So the Nachmanides, the Ramban, brings down in the name of the Rambam. Right? That's how the Rambam explains. That's what's going on. Right? That's what's going on according to the Rambam. That's why the Torah comes out so many times and says that it shouldn't eat blood, to go against what these Kasdins did in order to have contact with demons. So the problem the Ramban Nachmanides has over here is, where do you see that in the text? He says it might be true, might absolutely be true what the Rambam is saying. Right? What Maimonides over here says. Very good. It's only one problem. The text doesn't tell me that. The text doesn't even seem to hint at that. The text just tells me that blood is like the soul of the animal. So the blood you can't eat, because that would be like maybe eating like the soul of the animal, right? Even if it's a kosher animal, let's say. Doesn't matter, right? But at the end of the day, you put it on the altar, and it's there to atone. Blood's there to atone, right? But again, the problem is, says the Ramban, where's the Rambam get it from? Where does he get this whole thing from? He says, what's the reason it's forbidden? Because the soul is in the blood. And it's like you're eating the soul of the animal. And that's forbidden. It says in verse 14. Right? Also says in verse 11. Right? The soul of the flesh is in the blood. And then in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 23, says the same thing. Anyone who eats blood, right? The blood is the soul. So why aren't you allowed to eat the soul? Why are you not allowed to eat blood? Right? What's the reason? What's the reason, says the Ramban? He says I got 3 verses. He says I got 3 verses to tell me the blood is the soul. So you don't eat blood. Right? That's why I don't eat blood. Now, according to the Rambam, right, according to Maimonides over here, the Ramban doesn't necessarily disagree with what he's saying is true. He's saying what he says could be true. But it doesn't, but that's not the reason. The reason over here is because the blood's in the soul. Sorry, the soul's in the blood. Got it backwards. Yeah, the soul's in the blood. So if the soul's in the blood, that's the reason. What does that have to do with demons and knowing the future and all that? We get a number of verses. So he disagrees with the Rambam. And that's the reason. So then we spoke about the fact that God gave all creatures to us to do what we want, as long as we don't abuse them, right? We spoke about that. Non-Jews also not allowed to abuse animals, right? There are halachas here. You have to feed them before you feed yourself, right? You cannot. You can use them even if you want for scientific experimentation to figure out cures, diseases. That's not forbidden. We're allowed to for our benefit. Right? If I wanted to take an alligator, take off his skin, make alligator boots, alligator shoes, alligator pocketbook. Right? Use their fur, get me what do you call it? One of these spuddocks. One of these fur hats. What's the problem? All the PETA pet activists, whatever you call them, be jumping up and down, saying animal rights. Animals got rights. So animals have rights only up to a point. According to the Torah, the only rights animals have are the fact that humans can't abuse them. That's it. We can use them for whatever we want. We get benefit. But the Ramban then went further. The Ramban said, but we weren't allowed to eat them. Because if you look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, God gave all of us the grasses and the seeds to eat, meaning you can't eat animals. So the vegetarians at that point are right. Vegetarians say to be on a higher level, right? Shouldn't eat meat. Right? Shouldn't eat meat. But, says the Ramban, after the floods, in the merit of Noah, and he gave sacrifices after the floods, God gave us the ability to eat. To eat meat. Right? He allowed us to eat it. Now, again, so the vegetarians can say, very good. Yeah. The higher level is not to eat meat. Okay. But we say on a festival and on Shabbos, right? On a festival and Shabbos and Simcha Basar v'Yayin, no greater joy, right? No greater joy than eating meat or drinking wine. Now, if a person doesn't like meat, it's too heavy for them, whatever, okay. But if a person says, as we spoke about last week also, right? If a person says, I'm not going to eat meat because it's cruel to kill animals for the sake of meat, even if it's even permissible animals, that's heresy. That 100% is heresy because we're allowed to eat them. God gave us the ability to eat them. If you want to tell me at the beginning, the vegetarians might be right? The vegans might be right over here. That's a higher level not to eat meat. Okay, but he gave us the ability to eat meat. He permitted us to eat meat. Now, if a person comes along and says, I don't like meat because, I don't like the taste of it, it's too heavy, it makes me tired, different things, okay. But vegans go way past that, some of them. Right? And what are they going to say? They're going to say it's cruel to eat animals. That 100% is heresy. Because God gave animals to us to use, to eat, to use their hides, whatever. Even taking off their hides, you're going to say it's painful for the animal. We're allowed to. Try and do it as less painful as possible, but okay. However you get off their coat, whatever, take off their skin, whatever it is, okay. That's got to be done. You want your fur coat, you want your fur hat, whatever it's going to be. So you're allowed to, as long as that for us, that for Judaism is not called abuse, right? Doesn't matter what PETA activists, PETA activists, whatever you want to call them, they're out to lunch. They're going to say, oh, that's cruel. Why? I want my alligator purse. So what's the problem? I want my Sputnik. I want to wear this, this fancy fur hat on Shabbos, like, a lot of Hasidim do. Okay, so what's the problem? So they say, how many minks it took to kill that, to make that hat? So what? They're going to pay top dollar for it. Very good. So, is that an issue? No, it's not an issue. It's not an issue. So then the Ramban over here says that we're allowed to use these animals for our benefit. The blood, again, we can't eat the blood because the blood goes on the altar. That's used for atonement. And again, what's the reason? Because the bal nefesh, someone's got a soul in them, should not eat the soul of another animal. Eat the blood. Right? Eat the blood, so you're not allowed to. So then the Ramban continues. And he says, it says, what animals have? Animals have one aspect of the soul that all humans have, Jews and non-Jews, right? What do we call that? The nefesh behemoth, right? The animalistic part of the soul. That's all they have, right? So when an animal dies, doesn't have an neshama, right? Doesn't have the other aspects of the soul. It dies, right? There's no doggy heaven, right? No parrot heaven. It dies. Goes into the ground. Even if someone's reincarnated into a dog, we mentioned this also, doesn't matter. When that dog dies, the soul goes up and gets judged. Very good. Right? So an animal has the animalistic side. We all have that. Right? We all do things that are animalistic, right? We eat, we drink, right? We go to the bathroom, whatever, right? We do things like animals as well. So he says like this, according to our own understanding, right? There's a spark. There's some sort of spark in this animal, right? In the soul of the animal. Now remember, animals don't have free will. No creature in the world, animals, plants, trees, planets, right? The sun, the moon, the stars, they don't have free will, right? They cannot act on their own. It's interesting. It's a medrash. It's very interesting medrash. The medrash says that when people cut down a tree. Yeah, when they cut down a tree, the medrash says we're not given the ability to hear the tree scream. We don't have that kind of supersonic hearing here, right? But the Medrash says the tree screams when they cut it down, when they, when they saw it off to make it into whatever they use wood for, right? Yeah, use it for wood in general. They use it for paper. They use it for other things. We don't hear the tree scream out because if imagine again. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but it'd be kind of funny. Imagine, a guy gets out there with his, with the saw, and, he's getting ready. He doesn't even touch the tree. Gets close to the tree, and all of a sudden, he hears a scream. He hears some sort of scream. Like jumps back. It's like, who is that? Yeah. It's like, what is that? Like it's. So we'll make it very easy, right? Takes out his chainsaw, starts going along, starts cutting up the tree, and right when he starts to cut the tree, he hears unbelievable screaming. Yeah, if a person who's cutting up the tree heard unbelievable screaming, he ain't cutting up the tree. He's gonna be terrified out of his wits, right? I mean, you can't imagine. You start chopping this thing off, cut off a branch, and all of a sudden you hear it scream, right? So the Medrash says we don't hear it. Right? Doesn't mean the tree doesn't scream. Right? We don't hear it. The famous question philosophers been discussing, throughout the millennium. If a person cut down a tree in the forest and nobody's there, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it make a noise? Right? Kind of a stupid question if you think about it. Right? Right? Of course it makes a noise. When it falls, it makes a noise. Does it mean that a person has to hear the noise? Who says the person has to hear the noise? That's the whole discussion. Yeah. Yeah. If nobody hears the noise, maybe, so there's no noise. What do you mean? It makes a noise. It totally makes a noise, right? So I don't know. I don't know what, philosophers have been discussing for like the last 200 years. That's a very simple answer, right? In any case, the Ramban here says an animal has a spark. It has a spark of that animalistic soul. Yeah, it gives it life. Gives it life. Now, says the Ramban, that soul, is a complete soul from inside. Meaning that what does the soul do? Right? Right? What does the soul do? Right? It allows it to function. But remember, that soul, that spark, that what does it do? It gives it ability to function. But that spark doesn't give it free will. The only being in the world that has free will are humans. Right? God breathed in the spirit of life, says the book of Genesis. Right? Breathed in the spirit of life when he put in the soul, and it gives us the ability to speak. Right? The Aramaic translation is a ruach mamalalo. Ruach mamalalo means the ability to speak. It doesn't mean just to speak, it means to reason, it means to make decisions. Well, animals also. Right? They also speak. We just, if I was Dr. Doolittle and I could, speak with the animals, I'd understand what they say. We don't understand what they say. There were people, the Gemara says, there were people who understood, let's say, the language of the birds. They had that knowledge, right? I think it's been lost today, right? And for many, many generations. But in any case, they have a complete aspect of that soul, of that animalistic soul. Yeah. What's that completeness? Says the Ramban. What's that completeness? Now you would think he's a zoologist over here. What does he say? He said it's got understanding to flee from damage. Yeah. And to go after its own desires. That it has the ability to do. Right? In other words, if it feels threatened. Right? That's what damage over here means. Someone's coming to eat it. Or kill it. Or both. Whatever it may be. Or hunt it. Right? Which hunting also, by the way, is forbidden for Jews and for non-Jews for the sake of sport. If they're starving, they have no choice. Try and trap an animal, okay. But hunting for the sake of sport, that's forbidden. That's considered cruelty to animals, and it would come under for non-Jews also. For Noahides also be forbidden as well. But he says, so says the Ramban, he's got understanding to flee, to run away from danger, right? That's instinct. He's talking about instinct, right? It can also go after its own desires. Yeah. Very good. But what decisions does an animal make? The decisions the animal makes to stay away from danger, to go after its own desires, is based on one thing, right? It's not the same soul we have. Because the difference is it makes decisions based on instinct. Mankind, humans, make decisions not on instinct. They make, a lot of people make decisions, whatever comes into their head, whatever their heart tells them. Yeah. Whatever society tells them. Brainwashed by society. I can speak about that for days, right? We're not going to go there. But they go after their desires. Going after their desires does not mean they have free will. It means they have instinct telling them. You want to eat it? Good. You don't want to eat it? Whatever. That's instinct. But going after desire doesn't mean they have free will, like humans do. So he says not only that, he says they recognize the things that they do, meaning they do things by rote. They do things because they're accustomed to doing them that way. That's what they do. That's how they live. Now, for a human, for instance, the Bali Musar, the ones that speak about ethics, will say that is akin to spiritual death. Doing things by rote, because I did it yesterday, I did the day before, right? I did the day before that. I got up and prayed. I said the same thing. It's, we can't do things by rote. Someone gave, when I was at the Western Wall a few weeks ago, and my younger son put on tefillin for the first time. So someone gave him a blessing and said, the excitement you put on tefillin today should be the same excitement every day. Not just, you wrap it and whatever, and, and you pray, but you put it on every day. Like it should be like the first day you put it on. Right? It's pretty impressive blessing. Right? And we shouldn't just take it for granted. There are a lot of things we take for granted. And then people say, well, of course people don't pray so well, they don't have intention. The reason is you're saying the same prayers every day. And on Shabbos, you add different prayers, or festivals, you add different prayers. But we mentioned that. We spoke about that. Because you had prophets telling you what to say. Some of the men of the Great Assembly were actual prophets. So again, in my simple understanding, not that the majority certainly weren't prophets, some of them were. But if a prophet is going to tell you this is what you're obligated to do, this is what you're obligated to say on a daily basis, I think it would, this is not a leap of faith. And everyone agrees they're prophets, by the way. So if everyone agrees they're prophets, this is what we say and this is what we do, why wouldn't you listen to them? They're not false prophets. Yeah. So you think they got it wrong? I don't think they got it wrong. I don't think by any stretch they got it wrong. We have what to work on. But if we're doing things by rote, and we're doing things today like we did, like yesterday, that's a problem. Right? So Noah Weinberg, of blessed memory, founded many yeshivas and was head of the yeshiva of Eshet Torah. Right? He once said like this. He said your 5-year-old, dress up in these old clothes, and your 5-year-old says, today I have Napoleon. So come on, you're not Napoleon, you live in the city, your name is Beryl, like how can you be Napoleon? He's like, yeah, I was just kidding, whatever. Right? 25-year-old comes wearing this old dusty suit. It's wearing this old dusty suit, it's probably, been around since, 2,000 years. It's wearing this old dusty suit. He says, today I'm Napoleon. How can you be Napoleon? Napoleon, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah, how could you be Napoleon? It's like, no, don't tell anyone. I'm incognito. I'm in hiding, but I'm really Napoleon. So Noah says, come on. If if a 5-year-old is doing something that a 5-year-old does, good. He's acting his age. If a 10-year-old acts like a 5-year-old, or a 15-year-old acts like a 10-year-old, that's bad. Right? That's bad. So the idea is the idea is that, we have to act in a certain way. We have to do certain things, but at the end of the day, we're not, when it comes to prayer, when it comes to mitzvah observance, we should be doing things, as we say every day. We say every day in the morning before the Shema, we say that God is Machadesh B'chol Yom Tamid. God renews creation, every day and always. Right now, the language over there is present tense. Present tense. Right? So God says, it's not just, God renewed creation and he allows creation to do whatever it does. No, every day God's in charge. God renews every day. Right? So we have to look at every day. We just came out of the holiday of Shavuos. We just came out of the holiday of Shavuos, and Shavuos commemorates giving the Torah Mount Sinai. So we have to look at every day like we get the Torah new, like we get the Torah fresh. We're going to say, come on, I'm half asleep, and I'm tired, and this is hard, and that's hard, and the other thing's hard. Might be all true. Might very well be all true. But one of the things the Kosovova says, there is a heart, Shar Bechina, the gate of reflection. He says, why don't people, look into creation and see God's greatness in the world? Or the human body, let's say. Why don't people do that? So he gave a number of explanations. Why, like Abraham came to recognize God at the age of 3, the age of 40, had a difference of opinion because he saw a world of design. Everyone else was idol worship. It's like, here's Bob, don't leave home without him, right? Everyone had their pocket God, very good. But he brought proof that the world is logical. It comes on the Chos of Avos. Chos of Avos says an amazing thing. He comes up with 3 reasons. Why people don't recognize this on a daily basis. Very interesting. The 3rd reason would have been my first reason. This 3rd reason is because you get beaten down in life. Because you got beaten down in life, you forget the basics. You forget who feeds you. You forget that you have a roof over your head, even if it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't matter. Anyone who wants to try this out, go on a trip, go visit India. Right? India, a good place to go visit. Boiling hot right now. So many people live on the streets. How many kids live on the streets? People starving. Some people say, well, I eat better. Sometimes I do, I don't, this, that. We're in the richest generation in the history of man. Nobody's starving. Right? I mean, and there are places people are. I'm not saying not, but I'm saying in general, people have their needs taken care of. Imagine you walk into a store. It's like, what do you mean you don't have my favorite candy bar? Like, what are you kidding? You know my favorite candy bar? Like, I ain't coming here anymore. I want that candy bar. I want that chocolate. I want whatever. We complain about the stupidest thing. Yeah, but at the end of the day, we don't recognize what we have. We see the glass is half empty. And I hear this all the time. I speak about it a lot. Yeah, but this happened, the other thing happened. Okay, my Rebbe would say, if you live in the past, you have no future. You can't dwell in the past. You have to deal with the past. There's no question. And then, there are people that the past destroys them on a daily basis. Now, someone went through trauma, so I can't answer that. So Torah's not going to will that and say, a person went through trauma. If you have Torah the right way, you won't, that trauma goes away. Right? It doesn't go away. Trauma's still there. If the person needs serious therapy, okay. But if a person has a certain outlook and they know how the world works, right? They see the bigger picture, as I would say, right? Skalpin would say, you got to see the bigger picture. Okay. Now, even if you see the bigger picture, you understand where all these people come from and what they're doing and what happens. Yeah. We're going to take away some of the pain if you understood it. It's the greatest advice I was ever given I think was the greatest advice I was ever given. Right? I mentioned this a number of times, and that is someone told me, great rabbi told me. He says you have to look at these people like they have a 25 IQ, even less. These people deserve to be strung up, tied up, right? Nice white coat, and be in a padded room. That's where they belong. These people are literally insane. They're insane. And anyone who's going to tell you, yeah, your 5-year-old, how do you know it should really be a boy? Let's try and, convince him that really he's a girl in boy clothing or whatever. No, that's normal. That's okay. That's not brainwashing. You're giving him a fighting chance. You're leaving his mind open until his brains fall on the floor. No, but that's education. That's education. Yeah, you want to know why this world's so messed up? Very simple, right? This is the influence of the media and society and all that. But again, what's the problem? People put in ideas that are crazy. That are crazy. I was first engaged, I was first married. There was a prominent doctor of a community. He said, I don't like the way you dress. I'm like, what's the problem with the way I dress? I said, we dress similarly, except, I wear a white shirt, black pants with or without pinstripes, blue pants with or without pinstripes, or dark gray, with a jacket and a hat and whatever, in sitzes, and I said, let me ask you. I said, if I would sit on your roof and, I've had body piercings all over the place, I'd be smoking dope and playing the guitar every day. I go, would that bother you? There's this prominent doctor in the community. I go, would that really bother you? This guy's like thinking and thinking. I'm like, are you serious? I want to give, good morals, values to my kids and this and that. And I said, this person's a bum. They're sitting on, the top of a roof, not doing anything for life, not doing anything for society, right? They're basically a bum. I said, that's better. You got to think what you would rather have. That's insane. Now, this person's not a dummy. I mean, they are in other ways, spiritual ways. But I'm saying, person's going to have a very high IQ, know nothing about life, know nothing about the person, purpose of life. So these people, I'm going to take what they say seriously, especially in spiritual terms. I can take one word they say seriously, not one. But a person's going to say, but oh, they said things, hurtful things. Okay. Yeah. If somebody was mentally challenged, right? I'm going to use the word mentally challenged. I'm not going to say retarded because I'll get censored. You can't use that word anymore. So we'll say sensory, we'll say a person is mentally challenged, and even though unless I say anything wrong with saying someone's retarded, but it has a specific definition. Very good. So we won't go there so I don't get banned on YouTube or anywhere else, right? But if someone's got a 25 IQ and they say something to you, or they slobber on you, or they push you out of the way, yeah, I saw someone today, right? I mean, push me out of the way, but whatever. Person's mentally challenged, definitely mentally challenged. You could definitely tell. So, if they were getting in the way or push you aside, the person's gonna say that's annoying. Okay. When you look at who they are, and you look at the fact that they're mentally challenged, they have a 25 IQ. Seriously? You're gonna get upset at them? Okay. Listen, there's certain things that they shouldn't do. You don't give them a free pass because they're mentally challenged, or they have other issues. They don't get a free pass. But at the same time, that's what they are. Like I heard someone say, hear someone talking on the phone, they're like a 5-year-old. Person could be 40 years old because of the mentality of a 5-year-old. That's very sad. But again, if they're gonna, if they would have to go, they say, I can't stand the way you dress. It's, like here today, it's like, it's like 33 degrees Celsius, like almost 90 degrees. It was over 90 degrees. It's like, wow, it's so hot. How can you not wear, a t-shirt and shorts? How can you dress in all black? Aren't you going to get really hot? Isn't it really hot? You know what? You listen to the rabbis? How can, whatever. Let's say they start going on and on and on. You're going to look at them and say, it's a good point. I'll think about it, whatever. But yeah, I'm dressing up for God. This is what it means, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you don't just give me to say, okay, very good. Think about it, and you move on. Some people are going to get offended. Somebody's going to say, no, you don't understand. You don't know anything about Torah. You never grew up with mitzvahs. How could you say such a thing? That's so hurtful. It could be hurtful. It could very well be hurtful. But if someone is an imbecile, in spiritual terms, now it's not a question of we're better than them. The only thing that makes us different, the Torah says, is the Torah itself. Right? Chosenness means nothing if you don't keep Torah mitzvahs. The whole point we're chosen is because we chose God and God chose us. So the whole purpose is to do what he says. It's not a question, I think I'm better. It's not a question of thinking I'm better. Or a person will say, you don't think I'm Jewish. I didn't say you weren't Jewish. Is your mother Jewish? Yeah. Then you're Jewish. Oh, but you desecrate Shabbos in public? You might lose your status of being a Jew unless you repent, or you did some other things. Okay. But technically speaking, you're Jewish. I'm not saying you're not Jewish. You don't think I'm as good as you. It doesn't matter what I think. Nobody cares what I think. Right? Nobody cares what anybody thinks. What does God think? What does the Torah tell me? Does the Torah tell me it's a good thing to intermarry? I don't think so. Does the Torah tell me it's a good thing to desecrate Shabbos and eat shrimp? No. So you get a problem with what the Torah says, what God says. Okay? But again, you see where this conversation goes? Nowhere. They're trying to get under your skin. They're making fun. They're saying different things. And this person doesn't know it. They can barely read Hebrew. Right? So if I wanted to have a good time, and show them up, it's not the right thing to do. Right? You're not going to bring them closer. But you say, oh, here's a prayer book. Tell me, read these words for me. Oh, you can read a little bit of Hebrew? That's great. Tell me what it means. Oh, my 5-year-old, grandson can read better than you and knows better than you. Aren't you embarrassed? You can embarrass someone so easily. So easily. It's not going to draw them closer to Torah. Be forbidden. Right? So, but at the same time, they're shooting off their mouth, trying to make you look bad. Right? You got all these people which is kind of crazy. What's going on? We're not going to get into politics going on all over the world, universities, especially in the States. They don't know anything about anything. They're punks. They're thugs at best. At best. They don't know anything about history. Zero. I saw a post once, people claiming genocide. Again, we're not going to get into politics, but, you see that, the Arabs living in Israel since 1948 have quadrupled their population or more. You look at any Jews in any Arab country, they don't exist. Not like, oh, there are 5,000, 3,000, 10,000. There's like nobody in any of these countries. Nobody. Who's committing genocide? Yeah. I mean, these are simple facts, right? You got to get the right fact checker, but these are simple facts. So, says the Chos of Amos, the third reason people don't reflect on the world. They don't reflect on God's goodness and everything else. Why? This is the reason. Because they get beaten down alive. And they hear what people say, and they might not have answers, or it makes them feel bad. People can say cruel things. All right? Even if it has nothing to do with religion. They put people down, they don't care. Sometimes they'll feel bad and say, oh, no, don't worry about it, I was just kidding. But they meant it. I had this story a couple of years ago. Basketball player was playing a video game, live streaming, right? And made a bunch of anti-Semitic comments. So basically the NBA, National Basketball Association in America, they basically fined him and allowed to play, the rest of the year, without pay. Okay, he was injured anyway. This guy was injured anyway. Wasn't going to play anyway, but, that was their discipline. Comes along a non-Jew, right? Even though he identifies being a Jew because his father's Jewish. So it was this football player who says, yeah, you ever in Miami or whatever. He says, come down, have Friday night dinner, share some chicken soup, you'll eat some gefilte fish, probably kill him in the process. You know, you hang out with me a little bit, you won't be as anti-Semitic. Now let's think about this statement for a second. Person makes a statement live streaming, that's bad enough, right? Bad enough. But if a person would say, right, and this is how the subconscious works, if a person would say, "Oh, that was a slip of the tongue, I didn't mean to say that." Now, why'd the person say it? If someone was live streaming, a white person or an Asian person or Puerto Rican or whoever, yeah, and they started making they just started saying all these, anti-black comments, yeah, and then they got caught. Said, "No, I'm so sorry, I didn't really mean it. It was really a slip of the tongue." But what is a slip of the tongue here? There's no such thing. Why? Because when a person thinks something, whether it's true or it's not true, when a person thinks a certain thought, it becomes part of their psyche. Now, you can fight to get rid of it. You can fight to make it not part of you, whatever. But essentially, when a person thinks something, it's there, right? It's part of the subconscious. Now, there are certain things. Some people don't care. They'll just say what they think, right? And you have plenty of idiots like that, right? They don't want to be politically correct, which is fine. Unless I have a problem with it, unless they say wacky things, right? Whoopi Goldberg will quote her, give her a little bit of publicity, right? And came out and said the Holocaust was not an eradication of a race. I don't know. Hitler, Yamach Shemov Zikro, may his name be blotted out, may he rot wherever he is. It was very clear, systematic destruction of a single nation, right? Whether you call the Jews a nation or not, whatever, right? That was a pretty stupid thing to say. Now, I understand why she might believe it, right? That I can understand. But for goodness sakes, you don't have any gumption at all not to say it. You certainly, you want to say it among friends, different things, one thing. You say it on live TV, you say it on live TV, you don't have a problem with it. But what about the facts? Facts are pretty clear. I would tell her, sure, you want to do some interesting reading. One of the most popular books ever printed was Mein Kampf. They're translated on how many languages, right? Hitler's book. Yeah, he set out to do exactly what he said: a systematic destruction of the Jewish people. That's not annihilation of a race. But just as a side point, most people not aware. You know what Hitler's book was based on? It was based on a famous book called The 95 Theses by Martin Luther. Remember who Martin Luther is? Martin Luther was fond of the Protestant movement. Rabid anti-Semite. Rabid anti-Semite. Most of the stuff that Hitler Yamach Shemot V'Zichro God got from him. Most people are not aware of that. Right? Anyway, that was the source. That was the main source, of his book. But how do you read a book like that, which probably never read, which probably doesn't care, but it doesn't matter? How do you have a fact like that? Pretty clear. Systematic annihilation of a race, and that's not racism. Imagine if Hitler Yamach Shemot V'Zichro would have said that about blacks. Yeah. I'm going to take power, and my goal is all around the world. I'm going to snuff out every single black in the world. That wouldn't be systematic annihilation of a race. Jews are different. Why are Jews different? Right, the whole question if you call them a race or not, but whatever. Why are they different? Why does that not come up in her vocabulary? Because that's what she really believes. She said exactly what she believed. So this basketball player said the same thing. Right? Because once a person says something, where does it come from what they said? It came from their thoughts. Now, it could be. Maybe this person never thought about it so much. Maybe made comments to other people, whatever. But, never said anything, in public like this. But it doesn't mean it doesn't think it, doesn't believe it. Right? So this other football player now is retired, comes and says, yeah, come to me. We'll have, gefilte fish and chicken. Yeah. And he won't be an anti-Semite anymore. Are you kidding? This football player also can't read Hebrew, I'm sure. I know nothing about nothing. Well, come to me. I'll show you what Judaism is. Yeah, I'll introduce you to some of my Jewish friends. That's going to change his mind. Or he's probably upset. He got caught saying it live. So he's an idiot for saying it live. Okay. Right. And I harped on this a few years ago because it happened a number of years ago. Right. But, I mentioned it a number of times because there's no such thing as slip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue means they say, oh, I didn't mean to say it. But the reality is the consciousness of a person, that's where it is. So that's what the person really thinks. That's what I'm not saying they think about it all the time. It doesn't matter. But the fact that the person said it's a manifestation of what they think. So some idiot comes and says, yeah, we're going to have gefilte fish. We're going to have chicken soup. That's going to change our mentality about Jews. Really? That's what he thinks. You have to undo what you think. It's not such an easy thing to do. If a person hears something, if a person sees something, that image is recorded, right, in your brain. It goes into your conscience. Anyone's ever watched, any scary movies growing up? They have images. Those images didn't disappear. Yeah, they don't disappear. They're part of your consciousness. Doesn't mean it's going to come up every day. When you're younger, you have more nightmares of, oh, I can't believe they killed him and they tortured him. What are you talking about? Guy's probably having a beer with somebody right now. He didn't die. It's like, no, but it was so scary. He didn't die. He didn't die in real life. Yeah, it's all fantasy. Or people get caught up in the whole thing. Right? But those images are there. Now, they may not come up for 10 years. They might not come up for 20 years. They may be totally buried there, but they don't disappear. See, once a person puts something in their psyche, or they do something, they say something, right? They do things by rote. That's what we're talking about, right? They get in bad habits. So what happens when you get in bad habits? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, even if it's not good, right? So you say a person goes to pray every day, very good. Yeah, they put, men put on tefillin every day, very good. But their mind is somewhere else when they're praying. They get credit for praying, yeah. They get a C minus, probably. Right? They'll get some credit. I'm not going to say they don't get any credit. They get some credit. Okay. But if they keep doing the same thing over and over again, they're not living inspired, so what are the prayers worth? If we were playing God, I put on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache. Yeah, I looked down and said, wow, look at this congregation praying. This guy's thinking about, stock market. This guy's thinking about, I don't know, Celtics winning the championship. This guy's thinking about, whatever. But no one's thinking about me. They're just saying the words. Now, isn't it better they do that than do nothing? In some ways. If you would ask me that years ago, I would have said no. Better they do nothing. Because at least if they do nothing, they're not sinning. But here, okay, at least they're going to pray. At least they understand, there's an idea to pray. And they want to go in the right direction. But their mind is somewhere else. They're going to say, well, it's so hard to pray. So hard to concentrate. It's a lot of prayers to say. Well, in the afternoon and evening, it's very simple. It should only take you 15, 20 minutes. In the morning, it can take longer for sure. Take 40 minutes, take 45 minutes, take an hour, right? Maybe take longer. It depends. So where's your mind? So you tell me the Gemara says prayer is something always needs to be strengthened. Very true. You got to work hard. Very true. So some people would say, if I keep saying the same prayers over and over again, I'm doing it by rote. No wonder so many people don't have any connection to God in prayer. So let's say fewer prayers. Okay, which ones we take out? What do we take out? So we have to work at it. This is something we have to work hard at. Right? So it's not so simple, but again, what was the point? The point is what the animals do. I didn't talk humans. I didn't say anything about humans. Animals. Animals do what they're regularly accustomed to do. That's part of the animalistic soul. So I'm going to take it one step further. We have 4 other aspects of the soul, right? At least Jews do. Non-Jews have less. But we're different. We have the ability to make decisions. But if we're doing the same thing, I'm going to make a very simple deduction, right? And that is, if we're doing the same thing because we're accustomed to do it, are we any better than animals? We're not any better than animals. Because commentaries tell us if we do what we're supposed to do at a high level, then we're the greatest of creation. We're the pinnacle of creation because we're created last. If we act like animals like most of the world, and we're living in this Greek world of worship of the body, right? Worship of science, and worship of who knows what, there's no meaning. Most of it has no meaning. So in that case, what do I have? You go in that direction, you're no different than an animal. Because you're doing things you're already accustomed to doing. But you're going to say man's a creature of habit. Anyone ever hear that? We're a creature of habit. Very good. God doesn't want you to be a creature of habit. So when you say the Shema, paragraph before you say the Shema in the morning, all you Jews or JITs out there are going to say it. You're going to say God is Machadish B'chol Yom Tamid. God renews creation every day. That means God gave me my soul back. I thank God for giving my soul back. So since he gave me my soul, what's the point of what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be Davik El Hashem. I'm supposed to attach myself to God. That's the whole point. To the best I can be. And you're thinking about the stock market. And you're thinking about other things. Again, if we're playing God, you're going to say, listen, I gave you the world. You're saying these words. I gave you the star, the moon. I make sure the earth stays on the same rotation. It doesn't get too close to the sun, otherwise be incinerated. It doesn't go too far back, otherwise we'd be like Pluto, that frozen tundra. Even though Pluto got demoted as a planet, no offense. Yeah? So yeah, you're saying the words. Does it have an impact on your life? You ever think about it? You ever think, a person in the bathroom, thank God, the system works? Forget about what you're doing there, right? But you get all this, toxin out of your body. Are you thankful for that? Or you take things for granted? Take everything for granted. The only things we don't take for granted is when we don't have it. Imagine, imagine person, let's say, they get nasty flu. They get nasty flu. They're throwing up, other things, whatever. Won't get gross here. They don't eat. They can't eat. They feel very weak. Finally, they start to get better. Body can eat. They can drink. They feel stronger, a little bit stronger. Within a week, they feel 100% better. Do they remember when they were sick? They thank God. They say, "Oh, now I'm so much better. Now I'm so much better. Thank God. You took it away. No matter what medicine you took and this and that, whatever it was." Says the Chovos Levavos, you forget. Why do you forget? Because you get beaten down in life. You forget basics. Says the Ramban over here, you're no different than an animal. Because animals do what they're regulated to do, what they're accustomed to do. They don't go outside that. Now, there was one time in history, animals went outside of what they did. Got the time of the flood, right? The Beis HaLevi, Rav Chaim Brisker's father, a blessed memory, more than 200 years ago. Or 200 years ago, his commentary in the Torah said, I understand man was evil and they did all kinds of bad things. Man had to be destroyed. World had to be destroyed. What about animals? Animals didn't do anything wrong. Man had such power over creation that animals even started mating with different species. Now that's not normal. 100% is not normal. They have nature. Imagine I don't know, a dog going up to a giraffe or a hippo. Like, what are you thinking? Why in the world would you think such a thing? All right, you don't have to be that. I don't have to be that graphic, but why would animal do that? Totally against their nature. Yeah, because man had power. They learned from man. Now there was a case a number of years ago, many years ago, probably more than 20 years ago. I read an article that there were certain species of pelicans. I think there were pelicans, males trying to mate with each other. Right? Shouldn't happen. That's normal. Now, where'd they get it from? How's a pelican male going to try and mate with another male? Where were they living? I'll give you one guess. I'll give you a big hint. San Francisco! That was a hint. That was a hint. Yeah? So what do you think they learned in San Francisco? Could have learned in Tel Aviv also. Right? One of the biggest gay communities in the world. Yeah? But San Francisco before that. So you're going to say, but man doesn't have that kind of power today. Yeah, but you see, it's not true. Because otherwise, according to nature, again, the Ramban here is telling you very simple. According to nature, they're programmed. They're programmed to flee away from danger. They're programmed for whatever desires they want, right? And they do things they're accustomed to doing. That is not something they're accustomed to do. You won't see in general across the species of any animals, males of the same species mating. You will not see it. It doesn't really exist. You can say, how do you know the story was true? I didn't fact check it. Right? But supposedly it happened. Right? Supposedly someone notices it happened. Okay. Right? I'll take it at face value. Man, again, after the flood, we didn't have that kind of influence, of animals. Today, it happened. Right? Let's say it happened. It's not normal. It's not going to be in the majority scale by any stretch. Right? But it can happen. Right? I guess possibly it could happen. Right? So animals, so again, I'm going to make a very simple deduction here. You can take it for what it's worth. If an animal does according to what they're accustomed to doing, in other words, they're programmed. So they're doing things whatever their program tells them to do. So if we do things, because that's just what we're programmed to do. We get up, we pray, right? Person grows up as a religious Jew, they get up, they pray, they keep other mitzvahs, whatever, but are they keeping it because God said to keep it? They're keeping it because they're afraid they're going to find out forever? They're keeping it because they're actually living inspired? This is what they're accustomed to doing. They don't think about what they do. So I'm going to throw out there, if they don't think about what they do, are they any different than an animal? Even if they look like an Orthodox Jew. What differentiates them? We have the ability that, again, the Aramaic translation says, Ruach Mamalano. It gave us the ability to make decisions. We can make good decisions and make bad decisions. We can be inspired or not be inspired. We can go after things we shouldn't or do. But the animals can't do that. Right? Animals are just doing what they're accustomed to doing, what their nature tells them. Now, isn't mankind? Don't we say that we're also creatures of habit, right? And there's some people very rigid in their habits; they don't change. They do the same things mostly every day, right? They have the same schedule or similar schedule most days. Let's say they don't change. To change one thing would be a huge thing. But in Torah, you got to live inspired. You got to work hard. It's not so easy because we're accustomed to doing certain things. But if a person exposed to all kinds of things, so that's going to be part of your psyche. It's going to be in your mind, right? I'll tell you a scary thing. The Arizal, Rav Isaac Luria, of blessed memory, right? Very much known for his commentary in Kabbalah, once said on, in the middle of Shemon Esrei, right? The main point of every prayer service, right? 19 blessings. He says, how could a person in the middle of a blessing just like space out? Right? How could they space out? How could they lose concentration? 19 blessings. If you tell me a couple blessings, okay. Right? A couple blessings that shouldn't happen. Get 19 blessings. We're asking for our needs. Spiritual needs, physical needs. God should give us livelihood, should give us health, redemption, spiritual redemption, right? Coming the Messiah, all that. Says the Arizal, why is it that a person can lose concentration? How is it possible? You're standing in front of God, right? You don't see him, doesn't matter. You're standing in front of him. You're talking to God and your mind is elsewhere. What's the simple answer? Says Rav Isaac Luria, says the Arizal, you know what the simple answer is? Simple answer is you open yourself up to sin. Once a person sins, then you can lose concentration. So how do you fix it? How do you stay focused? Okay, this is $1 million question. That's why I got paid the big bucks over here. It's a $1 million question. How to stay focused, right? In this crazy world. And what's the simple answer? That people don't take an accounting of anything. Says and In the gate of reflection, what does he say? There are three reasons, but I'll give you the third reason because that's to me should be the first reason, right? And that is people get beaten down in life. That's the reason. And when you get beaten down in life, you don't think about anything else. You're thinking about survival. So at the end of the day, no matter what anyone says or what anyone does, our mentality is God's sending you a message. That person's the stick. Remember, you hit a dog with a stick, never a good idea. But if you hit a dog with a stick, who does the dog go after? The stick. Not the person wielding the power. Says the gate of belief and faith in God. He says that something happens, someone causes us damage, go up to them and thank them, give them a big hug and say, I want to thank you for working on my anger. He's not talking to the righteous, talking to everybody like, what are you kidding? This guy just caused damage. Guy went through a traffic light, right? If you're in South Africa, went through a robot. I don't know exactly how you go through a robot, but okay. Went through a robot, let's say, go through a traffic light, we would say. In America, went through a traffic light, texting, whatever, and smashed into your car. Smashed right into your car. Now, you're okay. No damage, right? You're a little bit shaken up. Car's damaged. Yeah. What's the first thing you're going to do? Because you saw the corner of your eye. You saw this guy, woman, doesn't matter, had their head in the phone, right? One of the worst transgressions you can do while driving is texting, right? You don't need me to say that. Yeah, they weren't paying attention. Red light, boom. Yeah. So what's the first thing you're going to do? Because you saw it coming. And you couldn't do anything. You saw it coming. Yeah. Again, you're shaking up a little bit, but let's say there was no damage, just damage to the car. Okay. And now you think like insurance company and you're not gonna have a car and whatever, and all these things. Okay, what's the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna get out of the car and you're gonna start screaming at this person. We're not even talking road rage. You're just gonna start screaming at this person. Right? Now, most people would say, is that the right answer? This person went through a red light or went through a stop sign, wasn't paying attention. Right? Again, we'll make it easy. They were texting, weren't paying attention. Bam, they hit your car. Right? They hit you. Now you saw this all coming. You couldn't stop. There's nothing to do. Yeah. It's just a question of impact. Very scary thing to think about it. But anyway, I want to digress here. Point is, what's the knee-jerk reaction? The knee-jerk reaction is you get out of your car and you're like ready to tear them apart. I have to get off over the initial shock. You're ready to tear them to shreds. Now, are they guilty? 100%, they're guilty. Nothing to talk about. They're guilty. Yeah. So the question now, that's the knee-jerk reaction. Now, again, they're going to have to pay, right? They're going to have to take care of whatever they did. Very good. They're guilty. There's no question. Now, let's look at it in God's eyes. What did God want over here? God wanted to cause you damage. Why? Most likely, probably something you did. Sin, right? Maybe you did something 2 days ago, a month ago, whatever. It doesn't matter. God's causing you damage now. What is he doing? He's using this guy as a stick. He's using this guy to get to you. So if he's using this guy to get to you, what are you running after the guy for? Why are you screaming at the guy? You're going to say, well, what he did, he was negligent. You're right, he was negligent. 100%. But God used that person, we say, a lot of messengers to get to you. God can use any number of messages. Does that mean a person doesn't have free will? No. This person had free will, decided to use his free will, or she decided to use her free will to text. Very good. Cause damage. So why are you jumping up and down screaming at the person? You have to do a cheshbon and nefesh. You got to think, why did this happen? Why in the world does this happen? So we're busy running after the stick. Yeah, sorry about that. 1 second. All right, you should be able to hear me now. All right, sorry about that. Um, yeah, so, right, so what happens? So essentially, oops, what happened? So this person damage, right, caused damage. Essentially, you're jumping up and down, right? Essentially, this person caused damage, so you're jumping up and down screaming, and the person caused damage. Message, right? God sent you a message. Um, and the message was he wanted you to lose money and to be aggravated for whatever a person did. Very good. Says the Chosov was over there. I should be thankful. Go up to the person, give them a big hug, and thank them for everything they've done for me to work on my anger. Now, someone's going to ask me the $1,000,000 question. And the $1,000,000 question is, if that's really true, right? If that's really true, he must be talking about the righteous. He's not talking about everybody. 100% he's going to be talking about the righteous. The Holy Bible says over there, I'm talking about everybody. So you're going to say, come on, who's living this? That's not the question. The question is, how do I look at life? How do I look at, when I was, decided I needed to see how the Orthodox lived, and really go to yeshiva. Yeah, I came to a conclusion. I was like 19 years old. I came to the conclusion, a little bit older than that now, but I came to the conclusion a lot of information I had didn't make sense. At the top university, a lot of things didn't make sense, especially in Judaism. I was becoming religious, a lot of things didn't make sense. I came to a conclusion. My conclusion at the age of 19 was either I need to see a shrink, which I might need to anyway, right? Or basically the whole rest of the world is cracked. The whole world is messed up. Now, if you're that age or even older, right, I'll make it easier. Person's older, right? Um, sorry about that. If a person is older, right? If a person is older, it comes to that conclusion that either the whole rest of the world is really seriously messed up, right? Or you have to check out, you have to check out what reality is, so to speak, i.e., in Torah mitzvahs. Now, a person can say that's arrogance. Like, who's to say you think you know what the truth is? The Hindus think they have the truth. Zoroastrians think they have the truth. So do the Christians. So do, but secular people, they want to do what they want to do. But when you look at the world in general and you see what's going on, it's a messed up world. I'm not talking about, so-called, religions, what they think and what they believe, which a bunch of nonsense and bunk. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Right. But if you look at the world in general, you're going to be, at this point, you can have too many friends left. You're in the wrong community because they're going to think like, well, like, who are you? You think the whole rest of the world is cracked. Like you think you're God's gift to the world, you're just like everybody else. You're no different. What makes you different than anyone else? Comes along the Torah and says, I distinguish you between you and all the nations. I took you out of the land of Egypt, not to eat shrimp, but to keep Torah and mitzvahs. That's why I took you out. So guess what? This is what you have to do. But I got to a point where I said this, a lot of things, especially I saw in the conservative movement, different things, in general in the world, this doesn't make sense. And when I was in high school, it didn't make sense. How could people be so intelligent and be cruel? How could they be cruel? So cruel. Be much more intelligent than me. Not a question of jealousy here. How could they be cruel to other people? So kids can be very cruel. True. Adults can be even more cruel. Okay. But I came to a conclusion. I came to a conclusion that this is problematic. Now, I didn't have Torah mitzvahs behind me. And there were a lot of things I didn't understand, but I had a lot of questions. That was my main question. I got to college, I thought it'd be better. Here I am with top 1% of college students in America. You see, college students, nothing to, on great universities, quote unquote, no great shakes over here. We understand that. But I thought it'd be different. And the only difference was they were more intelligent than other people. That's the only difference. And the scary part is they're going to be the movers and shakers of the generation. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, this, that. Yeah. But where's the morality? The morality's out the window, whatever someone does. The more you know, the more immoral you are. Famous story, my alma mater, Bertrand Russell, right? Columbia University, taught ethics, totally unethical. So students asked him, how can you teach ethics and be totally unethical? He said, if I taught mathematics, expect me to be a square? How would you expect me to be a square? Now, we don't compartmentalize. Aristotle, brilliant mind. Brilliant mind. But one of his students, some of his students caught him doing something disgusting. They said, how could Aristotle, the great philosopher, do this? He said, he acted like an animal. So he said, is Aristotle the great philosopher? Is Aristotle does other things? No such thing. So I heard someone give a parable years later. When I first went to yeshiva, I answered all these questions. One of these questions got answered, because they didn't have the right perspective. Now I understood, but, it took me a long time, to realize this. But someone gave a great parable. And I used this yesterday, class in Pirkei Avos. I've used it a lot. The parable is, you're in the middle of the ocean, wherever you are, in a sailboat. We'll make it easy. You don't have a motor. You don't have a motor, so this is what a person do. Idiot takes his rudder, throws it overboard. You know what happens when you take the rudder and throw it overboard? You're subject to wherever the wind takes you. That's what reality is today. A lot of people, wherever the wind blows, whatever, society's going to tell you to do, whatever society's going to tell you to buy, whatever, person's going to be brainwashed, totally brainwashed. They don't think for themselves. I saw a statistic, I think when I was in college, when I was in university, that I saw someone say 1% of the people think, 4% think they think, 95% rather die than think. Where are all the thinkers today? Where are all the philosophers? The gonzo. Nobody thinks. Nobody thinks. Eat, drink, and marry, lest tomorrow I die, right? Eat to live, live to eat. But again, at that point in my life, and I hear this a lot of times from a lot of other people, they said, this didn't make sense. That didn't make sense. I spoke to someone last week, all kinds of things didn't make sense, right? But they weren't taught to question. And if they question, get thrown out of the church, very good. But how does this make sense? Very good. It doesn't. That's why Christianity keeps people stupid. They don't allow them to question because they don't have answers. Right? Makes perfect sense. Judaism, we love questions. People can question all the time. Not a problem. Absolutely not a problem. The more questions, the better. Okay. But you see, a person at a young age, anyway, again, a lot of things bothered me when I was younger. It only became clear once I understood what Torah mitzvahs was. And then back in hindsight, now it all makes sense. Anyone, reads the book Derech Hashem, The Way of God. Unbelievable book. Yeah, by the Ramchal. By Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, blessed memory. All about why God created the world, purpose of man, purpose of the nations, how the evil inclination works, the difference between the way the world looked before and after Adam's sins, spiritual forces, right? Very basic things. It's a very deep book. Very deep book, very much steeped in Kabbalah. But even just to go through it, to understand these things, and just at a basic level, I wish I would have learned this years ago. As a teenager, I wish someone would have taught me this or taught me Chovos Levavos. It changed everything. Changed everything. Okay, you live, you learn. Right, 100%. You live, you learn. Better you get it now than later. That's why we said a person can't live in the past, because if you live in the past, you have no future. You absolutely have no future. And the past can have a tremendous effect on the present. That's why, a person doesn't get serious help if whatever they've gone through, or they have to work it out. Because if you don't work it out, you won't function in life, because you'll always be angry. And I have someone, got bad advice, bad business advice, lost everything, still angry for the bad advice he got. Now, I can understand people around him were apathetic. They didn't really, I'm not saying they had to, bail them out to give them all kinds of money, different things. But how about, a nice word? Don't worry about it. We're here for you. It's a terrible thing that happened. Okay. You start again. You build yourself up, whatever. Nothing. Person got apathy, got nothing. I can understand that would take a person off. But what if these people, we'll get back to the same fundamental principle. What about these people who wouldn't understand at all how to show any emotion? They have the emotional capacity like a doorbell, like a doorknob or something. They have no compassion. They say, oh, wow, like I remember I was running for a train in New York. This is, I guess, time you had to put in tokens, whatever. So so I saw a train coming. I said, great, I'm going to catch the train. I put the token in, it got jammed. I went flying about 30 feet. Yeah. Someone looks over me and says, wow, that looked like it must have hurt. Kept walking. Now, if I was in the Midwest, probably somewhere else, maybe someone would have helped me out. I'm like, I got to get out of this place. It's not normal. So like, oh, it must have looked like it hurt. I'm dying. Anyone want to help me? Sorry. I don't get my hands dirty. Get it. Someone who's apathetic, imagine. Someone just lost their whole business. They got bad advice. They lost their whole business. Now, if you see the bigger picture, it's still hard. Yeah. But imagine if no one ever gave you a nice word, say, we're behind you. We understand it's a hard thing to go through. Different things. The person got nothing. He got nothing. And the person to this day is still angry. Now, if you understand these people do not have the capacity whatsoever to be empathetic. They have no capacity, zero capacity. Yeah. You're looking at them like they have a 25 IQ. If someone with a 25 IQ just looked at you after you lost everything, they're like, so sad. Like, or take that guy and punch him in the face. But he's mentally challenged. When someone's mentally challenged, they can have a PhD. You know what we call a PhD? Pilot higher and deeper, or Papa has dough. Right? It means, one aspect, 10% of one aspect of one topic. Oh, he's got a PhD. No offense, anyone's got a PhD. Spend a lot of hours, go through oral exams, had to write, 100-page paper. Okay. Or something. My specialty, I studied history. Right? So I have a degree in history. What was my major in history? World War II. Now, does that mean I know anything about the socioeconomic development of the Third Reich between the time 1933 1939? One aspect of one subject. It was like, oh, he's got a PhD. I remember once I was teaching in yeshiva. I was giving a class and I gave a historical analogy. Yeah. So one of the guys said, oh, he can't argue with the rabbi. He's got a degree from Columbia University in history. And I'm like, oh. I said, if you say I know all Shas, and I know the entire Talmud very good. Yeah, that's something to respect. I got a degree in history from, a bunch of anti-Semites. From a top university, a bunch of anti-Semites. That's very impressive. That's very impressive. People forget what's important. So the Ramban here continues, just to finish this up here. The Ramban over here says, these animals, they do things by rote, right? They flee from danger. But he says they have love. Animals can have love between one another. You can say, what type of love? What kind of animals say? What type of love? He says they can have a type of love, and the example he gives, what would be the obvious example, of love of animals, of love between animals? He says the same type of love that a dog has to its owner. I remember when I was in ninth grade, teacher gets up one day. I don't know what context this was. But if anyone has any pets, go home and like tell off your pet. See what the animal does. See what your pet does. A dog, a cat, whatever it is. It's not a good experiment. Let's see. So I had a poodle, I had a small dog, whatever. So yeah, I come home. I said, okay, let's see how this works. See how this works psychologically. I'm like, you stupid, start saying all these things, to my dog. Like, like, come on, rub my stomach. Like, come on, take me out. Let's, I didn't think anything of it. Like, you stupid, ugly, had a fun time for a few minutes. Not to do anything. This is like, So he says like the love of a dog to its owner. Can that be genuine love? Now it's very interesting. Very interesting. A person takes a dog for a walk. Yeah. Got it on a leash, take the dog for a walk. Very good. Yeah. Who's leading who? Is the person that have the leash that's really leading the dog? And the dog's doing whatever, or is the dog really leading the person? So you think, come on, the person's leading the dog. I don't know. See what goes on today. Someone was here in Israel a number of months ago. They brought their dog because they were here for a few months, whatever. And their dog had one day, the dog goes to a play group. I'm in the wrong profession. I could have been a dog psychologist. Yeah, it goes to a play group. Dog has to, meet other dogs, go to the dog park. Someone, takes them out. They get to see other dogs. Like play date for dogs. You make this stuff up. I'm telling you, I'm in the wrong profession. So I started to laugh. I said, "Are you serious?" It's like, yeah, you're gonna make fun of it, but it's very nurturing for dogs, and they get to meet other dogs, and they get to socialize and sniff each other, and whatever. We'll keep this clean. It's insane. It's an insane mentality. You take your dog out. It does what it does. Okay. Let it run around a little bit. Whatever. Dog needs socialization. I mean, I'm living in the wrong generation. I remember back in the day, people said, there's such a thing as like dog psychologists. Was it crazy? A dog needs a psychologist? That's how messed up society is, right? But he says animals can have love. Yeah, I'm making fun here. Animals can have love, like the love of a dog to its owner. And he says it's a wondrous thing, the Ramban here says. It's a wondrous thing. You go into a person's house and you see this. No offense, anyone has pets or anyone who's dog lovers or cat lovers, out there. I could give a whole discussion on that. But he says the whole thing is about understanding. It's about knowledge. It's about recognition. Yeah. This is what animals are. And when they die, that's it, they die. Yeah, a certain person, a non-Jew, wasn't a Jew who said this, but doesn't really matter. When his dog died, what did he do? He got his dog cremated around his favorite tree. His favorite tree, where I guess where the dog made. Okay. So he said he got his dog cremated. And the ashes were, I don't know, I guess buried the ashes around this tree, around the dog's favorite tree. It gets better because you can't make this stuff up. So the person comes and says, when I die, I'm going to be cremated. So it's okay, I guess, for an non-Jew to be cremated. It's not such an issue. But he says, when I die and I want to be cremated, I want my ashes also around the same tree. They're no different than a dog. So, oh, sorry, I forgot to say the punchline, right? And sometimes bad telling jokes. Yeah, it's not really a joke. But the punchline is he said, if it's good enough for my dog, it's good enough for me. That's what you earned out of life. You're no different than a dog. That was the dog's favorite tree where it made. It's good enough for him to bury there. I'll be buried there also. It's kind of insane. Right? So he says this is a wondrous thing that you see by animals. Right? You see it by animals. And he says, but it comes with understanding and recognition. Animals don't have recognition. They recognize what they're comfortable with recognizing, what they're accustomed to. Yeah. We're different. Right? So we don't want to be like animals. We don't want to be accustomed to doing things because that's our programmed nature. And that's what's inside of us. We're thinking people. We're thinking beings. We make decisions. But can't we be just like animals and do things by rote? Isn't doing things by rote akin to spiritual death? 100%. So here the Ramban is pointing out another aspect of animals. He said before he went against what the Rambam said, that it can't be the reason because it doesn't fit in the verse why you don't eat blood, because the whole thing of demons, right? Needing the blood to get close to demons and know the future. He says, the blood is supposed to be used for the sake of atonement. The animal we can use for whatever we want. The blood is used for atonement, right? And we see that the blood is the soul is the blood is, the soul, is in the blood. So if a person eats blood, right? Certainly if a Jew eats blood, because it doesn't necessarily apply to a non-Jew, right? If a Jew eats blood, it affects the soul. And the blood can only be used on the altar. But think about other aspects of animals that it can affect. That we can be just like them. We can be accustomed to doing things that we shouldn't, why do we do it? Because we're accustomed to do it. Being accustomed to doing things by rote 100% is akin to spiritual death. Either you're going up or you're going down. There's nothing in between. Either I'm doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. Yeah. We're not happy being mediocre. Imagine going to a job interview. I'm happy, what are you good at? Really nothing. I'm just good at being mediocre. I don't really have any good qualities. They're never going to hire you. Of course they're never going to hire you. Right? But he's telling you as well that animals have the spark. They have the spark inside of them. And when a person eats the soul of the animal, they also get that, even though you have a what do you call it? A nefesh behemoth, you have that animalistic side. But when you eat blood, the blood is the soul. So you're taking all those things in either. Science never proven we are what we eat. True. The Ramban is telling you, though, this is what animals are. This is the essence of who they are. So if you ingest their soul through the blood, essentially you're ingesting all these things that are bad for you, that can have a negative effect, even if science hasn't proven it. But look how bad it is. Yeah. They stay away from things because instinct tells them to do it. They eat things because instinct tells them to do it. They do things by rote because that's who they are. They're programmed. Are we any different? Plenty of people say, no, I'm free to do whatever I want, this and that. But many people do the same thing day in, day out. Not so creative. Some people maybe more, some people less. Okay. But people say, yeah, we're stuck in the same rat race because they're doing the same things. They don't think. They'd rather die than think. This is the reality. Right? So again, this understanding and this realization makes us no different than animals. And that's the danger. That's exactly what the Ramban here points out by eating blood. That's the danger. I mean, says a lot of other things that we're going to take questions out, right? But that's the danger. Doing things by rote is a serious danger, even if you're a religious Jew or a religious non-Jew, right? As a Noahide, same thing. Doing things by rote is bad. So you tell me by a non-Jew, maybe it doesn't apply. Maybe I would say it's a moral imperative. But, does non-Jew have to live inspired all the time? No. Right? But if you don't, and you're not constantly learning, you're not constantly protecting what you see and what you hear, then you're going to be no different than an animal. And a Jew even more so. It's 10 times more an effect on us. Right? But a non-Jew keep the Noahide laws, right? Have a portion of the world to come, but they don't think about these things. They should. 100% they should. Kaufman would say it's a moral imperative. Very good. It's a moral imperative. They're not obligated, but is it going to make them better? Certainly going to make them better, make them function better, make them understand the world better. I don't think there's any question. But again, what happens? We just get caught up in the everyday. And when you get caught up in the everyday, woe to me, this happened, that happened, the other thing happened, right? And a person forgets the goodness. And it's very easy. It's very easy, as Clothes Bubble says, to forget the goodness, right? Because what are you focused on? You're focused on the bad. You're focused on everything that's terrible. 100%. Right? It's easy to do that. This is bad. That's bad. No one ever said a kind word. Okay, there are things people have to get over somehow. They have to get over. And I take what people say now. It'll be a long time to do this, but someone says something, could be obnoxious, blue about this and that, I just go, bing. I don't even take it seriously. I use it for my classes. I don't even take it seriously. Because this person's retarded. Sorry to say, they're retarded. They're mentally challenged. I don't care if they have a PhD. I don't care if they have an MBA, whatever they have. They're retarded. 100%. They should be locked up in an insane asylum. That's the way you have to view them. They're going to say they feel sorry for us. Well, guess what? We feel a lot more sorry for them. They don't have Shabbos. They don't have blessings. They don't have a way to connect to God, real meaning in life. It's like, yeah, I have my family, I have this. It's not real meaning. Right? I'm not talking about, say family, whatever, but whatever. Most things not real meaning. I had someone tell me, what's on their bucket list. Tell you one thing on their bucket list. Yeah. So one thing on their bucket, I don't know if it's still on their bucket list. I have to find out. I don't want to misquote it. But one thing on their bucket list a number of years ago was to go to every major stadium in America and watch a baseball game. That was on the bucket list. That'd be the equivalent, I guess, if you're in Europe, whatever, going to every stadium in Europe and watching a football match or soccer match, as we would say in America. That's on your bucket list? That's what you want to do before you die? put on the, what do you call it? Put on the tombstone and went to every place, every stadium in America to watch baseball game. God's gonna say beautiful. You get a front row seat right next to me. Then the person saying, hey, why is it so hot in here? Why are they going down? Yeah, question. Somebody asked, I digress here. One second. Question here. Someone here says, I've experienced no compassion many years. Didn't understand, yeah? Yeah, it is very strange. Right? So I'm saying ones with no compassion are not intelligent. Think about it. Someone has no compassion. What's a common thing? A common human thing. Should be compassionate for other people. You want to help other people. It's a common thing. If someone has no empathy, they're narcissists. Basically, they only think about themselves. They're selfish. Aren't there a lot of people out there that are selfish? Right? The Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Mishnah in Sanhedrin says, we're our own world. The world was created for me, i.e. for me, not anyone else. But you got to have compassion. You got to help others. You got to give charity. You got to think about someone else other than yourself. Even the most intelligent people. They could go to the best universities. Right? It doesn't mean they're compassionate. I met a lot of very bright people. Compassion? I met a lot of selfish people. Yeah. Heard someone say, if a person is suffering, they get down to the last piece of bread, then I'll help them. Tough love. Yeah. There are people who believe that. Right? So the question is, would I say they're not intelligent? What is intelligence? We pray in the Shemona Esrei, silent meditation, whatever you want to call it, on a daily basis, except on Shabbos. We say different Shemona Esrei, but what's the first thing we ask for after the first three paragraphs? We ask for knowledge. You're gonna say, if I don't ask for knowledge, am I stupid? What's the answer? What knowledge are we asking for? We're not asking for physical knowledge. No knowledge of math or whatever. What are we asking for? What do we say that God should grant us? Not give us, grant us. As a chesed. It's an act of loving kindness, spiritual knowledge. Give us the ability to tap into spiritual knowledge. So I'm going to ask you the $1.5 million question, $2 million question, we'll up to $85 million question. People that have, let's say, very high IQs or average IQs, let's say, do a lot of them have any connection to spirituality at all? Most people probably don't. They believe in the work of their hands. It's what the Torah says, one of the worst things also. Person says, I did everything. There's a prophecy that says Jews are going to be rich. At some point in history, the Jews are going to have a lot of money. They're going to forget God. So God says explicitly, they're going to spit in my face. They're going to say, I did everything. I did, the work of my hands. And someone once told me, I became who I am despite my parents. I was like, oh, you pulled yourself out of the womb? Dressed yourself, took care of all your needs, food, clothing. I know what they meant. I know exactly what they meant. Yeah. You're not anywhere like your parents, no matter what they did to you. You have a certain level of respect, right? If they're evil, you don't have to necessarily honor them, right? If they're evil, we've spoken about that. But in general, they have to have a certain level of respect because they brought you into this world, right? Even if they were evil, right? Still brought you in this world to a certain extent. I mean, they did, but, the question is what level of, respect you really have to have. Okay, it's a big discussion. It's a big discussion. But the point is, like, you did everything yourself. How could you do everything yourself? You didn't do everything yourself. So someone could be very intelligent, but spiritually they have no knowledge. And the problem is we have to respect every stupid thing they say because it can't be closed-minded. But then they can trash everything you say, right? But I met a lot of people that, very intelligent, compassionate. Not gonna say by everybody, certainly not. There are intelligent people that are compassionate. I've seen intelligent people not be compassionate, be apathetic, totally apathetic. Intelligence does not breed morality. We see that in universities, for sure. Yeah. But, does intelligence make someone more compassionate? It can make them crueler. It can make them, because there's different ways to justify things. It did an experiment. Where every time someone got the wrong answer, they were like behind a wall, they couldn't see them. They're supposed to administer an electric shock. Yeah. So every time they administer electric shock, they hear the person scream out. But they don't realize that they're not giving electric shock to anyone. It's all fake. Yeah. So the question is how far and how many shocks was a person willing to give so that person basically died? Where they didn't respond. A person made a mistake. It's like, oh, come on, get the right answer. And they got the wrong answer. They gave him a shock. It's like, oh! And they ask him the next question. They're really hoping to get the right answer. Oh, they got the wrong answer. To give him a stronger shock. And it's like, oh, tremendous pain. It's like, stop. It hurts. This keeps going on. This keeps going on until they have to administer a shock that's probably going to kill the person. Yeah. But the vast majority of people that they did this experiment with all went to the end. They all went to the end. They would have killed the person. That's how indoctrinated they are. That's brainwashing. Where'd they get it from? Where in the world did they get it from? It's what society teaches you. You got the wrong, they're part of this experiment. Yeah. They have to give this shock no matter what. So the question was, how many people had a moral fiber in them that would stop at a certain point? Because at a certain point, if you give a strong enough shock, you'll kill the person. Potentially, you kill them. and everyone's hoping they get the right answer, and they keep getting the wrong answer, and they hear them screaming out in pain, and they still administer the shock. It's a mind-boggling experiment of how conditioned the person is and how entrenched they are into whatever. Right? Now, am I going to say, someone who's not compassionate, that, someone who shows no compassion is not intelligent? What is intelligence? Intelligence by us means when I'm obligated to do what God wants me to do. And the more knowledge I have, the more we see we don't know. Right? So God wants us to be compassionate to others. He wants to help others. Even if the person can't give a lot of charity, they should learn to dig in their pocket and give something, whatever they can give, just so that they can give. Jews are known to be more compassionate than almost anybody else out there, because that's what the Torah demands. I'll give an example. You see two animals being crushed by their burden, right? So you have an obligation, if you're there, to help ease the burden on the animal. Now, you have two people there. One of them is your closest friend, and the other is your worst enemy. Who do you help first? Who would you help first? What's the obvious answer? The one you love. Why would you help the one you hate? Let his animal die. What do you care? That person should be under that load. Yeah? What does the Gemara say? Gemara says you have to run and help the person that you hate most. Why? So that should work on your love of that person. You can't say totally opposite. It's totally opposite of what we have thought. Right? There are three character traits that make Jews who they are. One of them is that they're Rahmanim, Bashanim, and Gimel Chasadim. Rahmanim, they have compassion for others. Bashanim, they get embarrassed easily. And Gimel Chasadim, they do chesed. They do acts of loving kindness. Exponentially, Jews are at the top of that list, because it's a part of their DNA. Right? Now, some people may have to learn it better. Okay. But intelligence does not mean that the person is compassionate. Doesn't mean that. I think very intelligent people are pretty cruel. Right? I'm not going to say everybody. I'm not going to go that far. But they can have all kinds of justifications why they do what they do. I know some people had a lot of money. Someone has to help out a certain thing, give a scholarship to someone to go to camp or whatever. It was like, it was like pulling teeth. Person had money. You don't want to give. Why do they want to give? Whatever reason. Whatever reason. We're taught you shouldn't be stingy. You have money, you should help others. If you have the ability. Doesn't mean you have to put yourself in the poorhouse to do it. But bottom line, the more intelligent a person is, the more they justify. You take someone, not a dummy by any stretch, and they're going to say, you take the Greeks. Greeks, good example. Greeks were we live in a Greek world today. A lot of things we learn away in the Greeks and different things, education, other things. When their parents got old, you know what they did? It's famous. They bring them up to a mountain. They're like, Mom, Dad's been real. No nursing homes. They're like, see ya. That's what intelligence breeds. See, this was my complaint years ago. Years ago, how could such intelligent people be so cruel? Forget about, I'm talking, kids. They become, later they become young adults and adults. No different. I don't think they're any different. Right? So how could it be so cruel? So someone gave me this parable. It's like being in the ocean and a sailboat without a rudder. You don't have morality. You don't have something dictating how you should live your life. Right? Third Reich. I mentioned Hitler before, right? May his name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is. Who joined the Third Reich at the very beginning? Doctors, lawyers, accountants. These weren't the skinheads of today. They were they were the greatest nation at that time. It's not so well known. America took in these scientists, whatever, so the Russians wouldn't get their information. Should have tarred these people and feathered them and whatever, but they didn't. They kept them alive because they wanted their information. They're the greatest people of that generation. Now, you want to say Hitler Yamashimo Vazirko was a great orator, great speaker, yeah. Convinced the masses that to treat a dog was better than treat a Jew. These people weren't stupid. These are the intelligentsia. They were not stupid by any stretch. They believed treating a Jew was worse than, treat a Jew worse than a dog. That's what they were. That's what they were convinced of. Right? Now we're going to make a little bit of a jump here. I don't think it's a big jump at all. Right? Look at the top universities in America today and other places around the world. Spewing all this anti-Semitism or whatever. That's what intelligence breeds. Never would have thought in a million years. It's clear. It's clear. It's all coming out. Right? Okay, Qatar paid a lot of money, all these universities to infiltrate the universities, put out this hatred. Okay. A lot of top universities, but these are the cream of the crop, so to speak. Of the movers and shakers going to be the next generation. And you see in the top universities, are you kidding? They're going to disrupt, what do you call it? Graduations and this and that, free Palestine. Where are they freeing it from? Trying to free it from Hamas. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah. And bring these, anti-Semites, what they're saying makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. For a lot of reasons, right? Most of them historical and what's really going on. But that's not the point. Unbelievable hatred. Imagine if these universities today would make these same sit-ins and same things against blacks. No offense, any blacks out there, or Chinese or anybody else. It'd be unheard of. Unheard of. Heads of universities cannot say that genocide at any time is bad. It depends on the context. Are you kidding me? What context? What context? How far does freedom of speech go? People feel threatened. They can't walk out of their doors without feeling threatened. It's supposed to be a free country. What happened? Imagine these people paying tens of thousands of dollars, goes to these universities, being spit on, being intimidated. Any other quote unquote nationality wouldn't stand for it. Wouldn't stand for it at all. Yeah, this is what intelligence breeds. Because they're convinced they deserve it. They have it coming. Look at what they're doing. Look at the genocide. That's what it is. So the question is, okay, my roundabout answer is, am I saying ones with no compassion are not intelligent? I would think, it depends what it is. But I would think that there should be a lot more compassionate people out there. But people are afraid to get involved to help others do different things. They're afraid. Who knows what? I'm not saying everybody. I'm definitely not saying anybody. But if someone had the ability to help somebody, at least show some level of compassion. Do I care if they have a PhD? Do I care if they have an MBA? Where's the compassion? If a person eats treif, a Jew eats treif, Gemara says, it causes their heart to be apathetic. Someone's going to say science has never proven it. Very good. So what? The matter of science proving it. One of the first things to tell a secular Jew if they want to become religious, they start eating kosher. Get that garbage out of their system. But it makes them apathetic. So any Jew is apathetic because they eat non-kosher. Secular Jew. Right? Now, you're going to say, shouldn't they know better? I don't know. Some things I would think are more, have more common sense. But, the higher the IQ, doesn't mean they're going to be more compassionate. It doesn't mean that. They'll tell you ways why they shouldn't be compassionate. I don't want a case where it should be obvious. I would think if someone lost their business, they're going through a hard time, an encouraging word, something. I understand the person's angry. I get it. Makes perfect sense. I would say the same thing. Except if you see the bigger picture, you understand these people are whack jobs. I don't care how intelligent they are. You can't show compassion for someone. You're apathetic. This person was rip roaring mad. I get it. Years later, I get it. But it depends how you're looking at people. There are plenty of people out there only think about themselves. Yeah. I'm not gonna say everybody. There are people out there who have good hearts, help people when they have to, when they need to, whatever. There are people that have good hearts. But if you're not holding by Torah mitzvahs, why should you? Why should you? Because hey, it's a good thing that I did my mitzvah for the day. So like, what are you doing your mitzvah for the day? It's the right thing to do. Why is it the right thing to do? Because you have a moral compass. What's the moral compass? Torah. Torah is the moral compass. Can we be convinced we want to put grandpa out of his misery? We're not going to call it murder, right? Euthanasia is not murder, right? That's mercy. But we hold there's no difference. We hold there's no difference if you do that or you shoot him in the head or throw him off a cliff. No difference. The exact same thing. It's murder. Who are you being compassionate to? You think you're God. You're the judge, and you're giving over the judgment. You know what the quality of life is. Doctors know what the quality of life is. Oh, the person won't be able to function, right? I know of a story. Somebody had a stroke, affected their mind. Someone told me. Again, fact is greater than fiction. You can't make this stuff up. This person told me this person can't even play Sudoku anymore. Doesn't have the brain capacity to play Sudoku. Like, that's the quality of life. So this person, something snapped in their brain. They weren't going to have quality of life. So they didn't want to eat. They didn't want to drink. They went in the hospice. They died. A few months later, 2-3 months later, they just withered away. Okay. That's their choice. But somebody made that comment. Well, the person can't play Sudoku anymore. That's the criteria. What life is. Can't do crossword puzzles anymore. What about the pasture? Can't play canasta. Can't play cards. Don't have the same mentality. What about the pasture? That's what life's about. That's the meaning of life. The person said, I'll just quote it. The person said they can't even play Sudoku. And whatever. I did everything in my power not to laugh. I mean, I couldn't see my face anyway, but I was like, ugh. I'm like, you got to be kidding. That's how shallow some people are. That's not called quality of life, right? So how do doctors define what quality of life is? What do they think quality of life is? I think if you're right to put the person out of pasture. That's not mercy. It's murder, right? We hold 100%. It's mercy. It's murder. Yeah. Somebody asked. Let me see here. 1 second. Let me just see if there are other questions here. So when a vegetarian says that people who meat are aggressive, yeah, in part it's true, but it's only because they eat non-kosher meat. Yeah, non-kosher meat has blood in it. For sure, has blood in it. They don't drain all the blood, right? We take on these character traits. We can take on these character traits that can make us more aggressive. Yeah. Again, science hasn't proven it. For sure, hasn't proven it. But I guarantee, in secular, what do you call it, non-Jewish slaughterhouses, they don't drain all the blood. They drain some of it. They certainly don't drain it. Their goal is not to drain all of it. There'll be blood in stuff you eat. Meat you eat, there will be blood in it. No question. I don't think there's any question. Kosher meat, you won't have that. Right? Kosher meat, for sure, you won't have that. So they're eating the soul of the animal. So, yeah. They want to know, again, the question would be, okay, non-Jews eating non-kosher, very good. Right? But it doesn't affect them. So even you're going to say, it's more aggressive, this and that. We mentioned before, the Kli in Leviticus chapter 10 says, the non-Jew's never going to keep it. The non-Jew doesn't have to keep kosher. Why not? Because the non-Jew's not affected by what they eat. Because you see, they eat all kinds of creepy, crawly things and different things are not affected. I know about eating bats in Wuhan, right? That might prove that differently. But the Kli over there says, The non-Jews, a non-Jew is not affected by it. If you're not affected by it, why would he do it? Doesn't affect them. Has no effect. Yeah. So even in this case, even if they're eating blood, per se, they're eating the soul of the animal. According to Kliyakar, that shouldn't affect them. Should not affect them. That's why, someone told me testing, oh, non-Jews can't eat blood. It says the person lives among the Jews, right? Or Ger Toshav or whatever, right? Shouldn't eat blood, but we hold non-Jews can eat blood. Doesn't affect them the same way, right? So if you're going to tell me that what, even non-kosher, again, this is for a Jew, not for a non-Jew, shouldn't affect the non-Jew. But are non-Jews eating blood? Yes. I think it's pretty clear. It's kind of funny. I grew up in Boston, so Boston's all, what a lot of people eat, shrimp, oysters, clams, all these things. People have to eat shrimp, and people don't realize, and probably don't care either, that shrimp is like the cockroach of the ocean. That's what it is. So a person will say it doesn't matter, I'll still eat it, right? But that's what it's like. Scavenger, right? But it's basically like a cockroach of the ocean. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Put it in sauce, this sauce, that sauce, 10 different types of sauce. They'll eat it, right? They'll eat it. But again, that won't affect the non-Jews, right? Because it doesn't affect the non-Jew the same way, right? So the Kliyakar says, right? And you get non-Jews out there who say, yeah, I only want to eat clean animals and this and that. The Kliyakar says, why? Doesn't make any sense logically. It doesn't affect you. So if it doesn't affect you, why would you do it? That's why the Kliyakar says it has no effect. It has absolutely no effect on them. So, right, if it has no effect, they're not going to do it. 100%, they're not going to do it. So the reality is, these people are not connected to God, right? It's not your imagination. Of course, it's not your imagination, right? Whatever you say, any conversation you have with these type of people, it's dangerous. Once a person hears something, it affects your soul. It has an effect. It can have a totally negative effect. It's part of your psyche. It's harder to fight. You hear something, you see something, right? It has an effect, right? The thing is that, we got to be careful. We got to be careful what we see, what we hear, who we're in contact with. Yeah, sometimes, in contact with family, you have no choice. Okay, right? You might not have, any choice, but sometimes, they say you got to cut the biblical cord sometimes because it just has a negative effect. If it's toxic, even more so, right? But giving you things to think about that are just, I'm not even going to say idiotic. They go against what the Torah says. Yeah, it's bad. I'm not saying they're going to convince you what they say is right, right? But even if we don't have necessarily a good answer, right? If we don't have a good answer, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean the Torah's not true, right? But a lot of people, you don't really have to break down what they say. It's very easy. It's very easy what they say. You just hear what they say. I'm like, seriously? I was in the States a couple of years ago. Someone asked me one serious question. I was there for 9 days. A secular Jew asked me one serious question. What I thought that, Netanyahu took over and the right wing took over. That was like one serious question I got. Everyone else, all about food, all about other things that don't matter. I mean, these people waiting to die anyway, but whatever. There's no meaning. There's no meaning in anything. Yeah, it's sad. I think I still have stories from that. I said 9 days, right? I said to my wife, I said, I guarantee I'm going to have stories for a long time. I'm only going to be there for 10 days, less than 10 days. I'm going to have a lot of stories. Yeah. It's sad. And people say, what I think about is, just this and that. Okay, but what's life really about? What's life really about? Either God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai or he didn't. And if he did, what's my obligation? If I'm a Jew, I got an obligation to keep all the Torah. If I'm a non-Jew, I could convert or not convert. Right? Person has a choice. Person has a choice, but we also have a choice who's around us. We do have a choice. Maybe unpopular. Right? Someone told me, said, oh, you only hang out with people that, think like you, and you don't? You're so open-minded. Why don't you go live in an Orthodox Jewish community? Oh, I would never do that. So why'd you expect me to live in a secular Jewish community? Or among, whatever. Why would you expect it? Yeah. Any other questions here? Um, yeah, I had someone tell me, yeah, people are gonna say, yeah, you deserve to be abused because of what you believe in different things. I had someone tell me, the family tells them all the hardship you're going through is because you don't believe in JC. If you would believe in JC, everything would change. Okay. I also don't believe in the Easter Bunny, or what do you call it? Or what's it called? Tooth Fairy. I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy either. That means because, life is hard in different ways that things are going to change. If I believe in the Tooth Fairy, I don't think so. I don't think so. So imagine the thing about the tree being cut down. Yeah, it's just that dying is bad. No, dying's not really bad, right? It's not a question of, why don't we hear the tree scream? Yeah, the tree feels the pain. It's not a question of dying. The tree feels the pain. Yeah, when a person dies, you know, let's say for humans, when we die, it's just going to be a transition to another world, right? This world of the Mission Perkei I'll get there when I'm about 102, right? The Mission Perkei says this world's like a portico, crow's door, right? It's like a hallway, right? I like the word portico though. It's a portico, it's an antechamber, right, to the next world. It's just a change of state, right? Your soul, is hopefully going to get judged and have a portion of the world to come, right? But when a person dies, or they're ready, when they're ready to die, they know. I remember someone told the story when their father passed away. They were whatever, they're in the hospital, and the father's like transitioning to die, and he was saying how he saw his brother like passed away like years before. They say normally when a person right before a person dies, family members are going to come and they're going to welcome them to the next world. Yeah, hopefully good places. But like this person was waving to his brother. It's like, Dad, who are you waving to? It's like, oh, it's my brother Leo, whatever. Right? He's sitting right there. I see him right here. I know of another story. Rabbi told me a story when his mother, right before she died, right? All her relatives started to come and started screaming. It's like, get out of here. I don't want to see you. I'm not ready to go, whatever. That's part of transition. you know. But again, it's a transit. It's a state. You're not just going straight to the ground. I had someone tell me, when I die, I'm going 6 feet under. I said, I hope for your sake you're right, because if I'm right, you're in serious trouble. Right? You're in serious trouble. But yeah, any other yeah, so it's really it's really just a the soul is just transitioning for the next world. Right? Does a tree want to die? A tree doesn't have free will. Right? It doesn't mean a tree can't feel pain. Doesn't mean the spiritual force can't feel certain things, right? But again, if you smack a dog, is the dog gonna whimper? Yeah, depends how hard you hit it. The dog's also gonna be in pain. So you're gonna say, "Come on," but a dog feels these things. Okay, who says the tree doesn't feel it? The measure says the tree feels it. We just don't hear it. Not a question of being afraid to die. They're programmed. If you look a dog right in the face and say, "You're gonna get old and die," or "You're gonna get hit by a truck," right? You're gonna hold the dog up and you're gonna pat it and whatever. You're gonna have this like serious conversation. Dog's gonna like, that's what the dog's gonna do. Dog has no connection. There's no connection whatsoever. So you're gonna say, well, you're gonna go in the ground and we're gonna bury you. We're gonna take care of you till your last day, whatever happens. Dog's gonna be like, okay, all right. They're programmed. It doesn't mean if they're in pain, they don't feel it. Any dog that's ever been in pain, then I know someone's dog's got cancer or other things, or whatever, different serious things. Doesn't mean you have to put them to sleep if they're suffering. You can do that, right? But again, do they feel the pain? They feel it. They definitely feel it. If they could speak and we would understand them, they'd say, "I'm in pain." They would tell you that, but we don't understand what they say, right? We can understand they're in pain though, even if they don't say it. Right? Even if they don't have like a broken limb or whatever, we can feel it, right? They can feel it, they can express it in a certain way. But again, that's not saying they have free choice. That's how they react to the pain that they're in, right? So we don't see it by a tree. We don't hear that the tree screams. Is the tree afraid of death? Does the tree really know what death is? You're gonna take, you're gonna pet, you're gonna stand next to the tree. People are gonna look at trees and animals differently after this, right? You're gonna pet the tree and you're gonna say, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna be warm because of you. We're gonna cut you up. We're gonna use you for firewood. No, even better. We're gonna cut you up very thin. Gonna make you into paper. Someone's gonna write a nice book, and it's all thanks to you. Trees just gonna stand there, not gonna say anything, right? But the tree's programmed, right? We don't look at it that way. A tree feels pain, they're not afraid of anything because a tree just reacts, right? We don't see it, we don't fathom it, right? It's no different than a dog, no different than anything that's programmed, right? Are they afraid of anything? What are they afraid of? Hurricane comes, yeah, so they're doing everything they might make sure they don't get uprooted, okay, but they're doing whatever's in their nature to do. That's what they do. That's what they do. We don't fathom it. We don't see it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They don't. They don't. Again, are they afraid? You get stars way out there, whatever. A lot of them going to eventually burn out. Maybe after, I don't know, a billion years, who knows what. You ever ask a star, you worried you're going to burn out someday? They don't know anything about it. It's a program, right? Trees, same thing. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, we got a lot of interesting topics today. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Mark Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, even though I'm very behind. Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. I do apologize for getting cut off a little bit. Otherwise, going to sign out, which everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day.